Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the LUFC Fan Zone podcast. I'm Sam Isles.
And I'm Jack Ellis.
And each episode we'll be talking to our next Leeds United player or manager about their time at the club. Last episode we were with former Leeds United head coach Steve Evans, and I know every Leeds fan will have their own opinions on Steve and his time at Leeds. But how do you think he came across, Jack? Because to me, he was incredibly honest with us, and you could tell how proud he was to have been the head coach at Leeds, which was over 5 years ago now, which is quite hard to believe.
Yeah, Steve came across like a really nice guy. You know, it was evident to see that he was really invested in Leeds and still is. And for me, what really stood out about the feedback was there was not a lot of negative comments aimed at us, but more aimed at Steve and the same people. Maybe not the same people, but after the second episode came out and people listened to it, the feedback we got was so much more positive about Steve on it as opposed to before. You know, people's perceptions changed on him.
Yeah, like you said, when we first announced Steve as a guest, people were like, why do you want to speak to Steve Evans? He didn't really do much to the club to benefit it. But then when people listen to it, they understand of why we do speak to these sort of people, because, like you said, it's good to see the feedback that we received afterwards, because it definitely changed the people's perception. And in the show, Steve spoke about how he joined Leeds, as well as his frustrations with the January transfer market, where he told us that he wanted to bring in 4 loanees to Leeds after the club sold Sam Byram. And he had them all ready to sign, but Massimo pulled the plug on the deals, which was quite amazing to hear. But what was the main thing that stood out for you most in that episode 22, Jack?
God. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to go from that episode, really. I mean, the Preston incident. Well, obviously, if you listen to the episode, you'd know that Celinio verbally agreed a deal with Evans, and he even gave him permission to tell his family that he was going to be staying another year, only for him to backtrack on his decision and terminate his contract. Well, not agree to extend his contract. But I think for me, which was an exclusive from what Steve said. Was it was an obviously Massimo ringing him during Leeds' League Cup game against Fleetwood, when, if you can remember, Leeds were 1-0 down, and was it Antonsen who scored in the last minutes of the game? Yeah, I can't remember. 9 minutes, I can't remember how the goal went, and I can't remember that much. But yeah, I remember Antonsen scored and Leeds ended up winning on penalties. And Steve was saying that if Leeds had gone on to lose that game, he would have sacked Monk and would have reinstated Steve Evans back in, which was a massive shock, and I don't think anybody would have known that. But yeah, I think that for me was probably the standout thing, and he definitely saved the best to last.
Definitely, yeah. And it was just one of the many things that you were speaking about, which Chelino did in that era. So if you haven't had the chance to listen to that previous episode with Steve Evans, as well as all of our other shows, they're all available on Spotify, YouTube and Apple Podcasts, simply by searching the LUFC Fan Zone podcast. But on to today's show, and this week we thought we wanted to hear from someone different to a former player or manager, and someone who is within the agency side of football. Today's guest is the joint owner of YPFC Football Agency and the agent of current Leeds United goalkeeper Illan Meslier, someone who only joined the club on a permanent transfer at the start of this season, and according to transfer market, the most valuable goalkeeper in the world under the age of 20. That's right. This week we're delighted to be joined by football agent Xavier Fleury. Xavier, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, hi to everybody. Thanks for inviting me. So I'm really happy to speak on the podcast from Leeds United's fans. So we get quickly to love that club. There is a really special atmosphere around the club. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much for coming on, Xavier. And usually on the show, we speak to former players and managers of Leeds, and you're just our second agent on the show. So just to start with, if you don't mind, would you be able to just explain what you do in your day-to-day life as an agent and what the main role of a football agent is, in your opinion?
So the main role of the football agent is to be alongside the player during all his career. So to give advice. As in our company, the owner of the company is a former coach, football academy director, and player. So it's easier to give for him to give sporting tips to his players. But as well, it's about choosing the right contract at the right time, to do the promotion of the player, to speak of the player, about the player to other club, to, in case of there is a problem at one time, we know already what is the market for the player. And so it's helping him as well in his day-to-day life, which is quite important when players are changing countries, for example. We used to have a lot of players in Germany. I used to follow a lot of players in Germany. Some player in England, and it was it was quite sometimes they were really in need of help to settle in the new country. It's not the case with Illan. Illan is really autonomous. He adapts perfectly everywhere, so it's not really the case with him. But it's a part of the football agent job as well.
Yeah, and of course, like you said, you are the agent of Leeds goalkeeper Illan Meslier, and a part of the YPFC with Yvonne Pouliquen, who is the founder and what it's named after. But when did you first get involved with Yvonne and YPFC, and what made you want to become a football agent?
Me, I've always been fond of football. I was not playing at a high level at all, but during the course of my studies, I end up doing the FIFA master course in sport management, which one part of it was in Leicester, by the way. And after doing that course, I wish to work in a youth formation in developing countries, but it was quite hard to get a job. And I thought, why not becoming football agent? Because I was a little bit skilled in management, little bit skilled in law of sport, but not a specialist in any of those fields. And I saw that a football agent, you need to know a little bit of all this kind of thing, law, management. So yes, I thought it was a good idea and an interesting job. And so I found the first job with an agent who was not really good, a little bit messy. I said to myself, okay, now I will never do that again. But then I got into contact with Jean Auvert, which used to be one of the biggest French agents at the time. He used to work with Didier Deschamps, Willy Sagnol. We worked with Yohan Mikou, with David Alaba, with players like Karim Agui, captain of Tunisia, and a lot of Ivory Coast international, like Boubacar Sanogo, Arthur Boca. And we were the first agency, I think, to put a lot of players in Germany, French players in Germany. And so it was a top experience with a top agent, but he retired like three years ago. And so I started to work with Yvon Pouliquen, that I knew when he was a coach. And Yvon is really a top guy for me, a straight guy, which is not really common in this business. And it's good as well that he's a former player. He used to play more than 500 games as a defensive midfield in France first division. And then he became a football academy director in Strasbourg. And then he was coach in Strasbourg. He won the French Cup in Lorient. He won the French Cup as well. And then in first division team like Grenoble, Metz, Guingamp. So I think it's a good, we have a good mix in the company because I have the experience of international transfer. And Yvon used to be a football player and coach, which is important because there is quite a lot of football player who becomes agent. But I think in Europe there is only one former professional football coach who has become agent, and it's Yvon. So I'm happy. He's a straight guy. We have young players, some like Illan or Adrien Truffert in Rennes are starting to play in the first team. So we are making our path quietly, step by step, and with ethics. Most important, we want our players to play all the time, to be starting, because it's easy nowadays with all that business about young players. Nowadays, it's quite easy to put the player quickly in a big team with big money. But I mean the fact the player has to play. If he's playing, starting, he will improve, and we will get a good club naturally. And then for us, the best career path is to be playing all the time. That's it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. And as well as Illan Meslier, your agency represents 17 other professional players, and like you said, most of which towards the start of their career, and French, just like Illan. However, how long have you been working with Illan, and how does a partnership like that start? Did Illan, for example, approach you and ask to be his agent, or did you approach Illan?
Between Yvon Pouliquen and Illan, it was Yvon who discovered Illan. It's Yvon who was the what we call it, with the most intimate, who knows best Illan, because it's him who recruit him, because Yvon is living in Lorient now. He used to be the coach of Lorient. And so at the time, Stéphane Le Garec, which was the goalkeeping coach of Lorient, Stéphane used to be the goalkeeper of Yvon when they won the French Cup, and Yvon was the coach. And Stéphane told Yvon that there was a young goalkeeper in the youth team of Lorient that looked quite awesome. So Yvon watched some games, and then he got in contact with Illan, with the family. And so, yes, when Illan was 16 years old, Yvon was the first to approach him, and the relationship was good with the family, with Illan. And so they start to work together from the very beginning.
And on to Illan himself. He's obviously still a very young player, and especially for a goalkeeper. And his move to Leeds in 2019 was his first ever transfer because he was at Lorient from the age of 9. However, just a year before his switch to Leeds, there was a few reports that Monaco and Chelsea were very close to signing Illan in 2018. So, were any of them moves ever close? And if so, why did Illan choose to stay at Lorient rather than, at the time, to pursue a move to either of them two clubs? Because they were both playing in Europe at this time compared to Lorient, who were in the second division.
Mm-hmm. It's what we were saying before. For us, the most important is for player to play. So even if there was interest from Monaco and Chelsea before Illan really started playing, we saw there was more chances of playing in the first team in Lorient than in Monaco and Chelsea. So there was never really concrete talks, a little bit with Monaco, but not with Chelsea, for example. But we knew there was a lot of interest. But for us, Monaco at the time, there was like 70 players under contract, so it was totally crazy. Most of the players were on loan in Belgium, in other clubs. So for a goalkeeper, you need stability. So to go to this kind of club, it was perhaps not the best thing to do. And Chelsea was quite the same. I think the plan for them, even if we didn't have really concrete talks, was to put him on loan for several years, for him to get accustomed to English football. So it's not really what you want for your player. You want for him, I mean, a goalkeeper, you need to try to be number one. It's not like other position in football. If you start to be the number 2 and backup, it can last for years. So we want stability, and we thought that to stay in Lorient would be the best option. And Illan as well is close to Lorient. He used to like very much the club. It's his family is nearby. Lorient is Brittany. It's what we call the region of France, Bretagne, Brittany. And people from Brittany are very close to Brittany. So for him, to live to Chelsea or Monaco to have more money and be loaned everywhere, no, it was better to stay in Lorient and play competitive first team football with Lorient.
However, just a year later, he did make the move away from France when he joined Leeds at the start of the 2019-20 season, which was initially on loan when he was still just 19 years old. When were you first aware that Leeds were interested in signing him and that a move to Elland Road might have been possible?
How it went with Leeds was that Leeds has a very good scouting department. Victor Horta is doing a tremendous job. So they follow Illan for a lot of time. And where Victor Horta was very good was with the timing. Timing is the most important thing in football, I think, from my experience, is the most important thing. And Victor on that was perfect, because Illan, like the first season, he was starter. The coach was Michael Landreau in Lorient, which was a former goalkeeper of the national team. And so he did a good season for a player that young. And then after his first season, the coach was fired and the new coach came in, was Christophe Pellissier. And 10 days before the start of the championship, the new goalkeeper come in, was Paul Nardi with some experience. It shouldn't change anything, but the day before the start of the championship, the coach told Illan, finally, you will be number 2 this season. So the Mercato was already well underway. Illan, of course, did want to leave because it was not acceptable to know that one day before the first game of the season. And it's at that time that Victor on Leeds called and say, hey, we are interested. We want to we want Illan now. And it was the perfect time to call. So even the president of Florian is really tough in negotiation, but he knew that, Illan was young. He will be on the bench now, so he couldn't really block him. So that's why we were quite interested. And then Leeds, I knew it was a big club. I used to study in Leicester when Olivier Dacour was playing in Leeds. I had a shirt of Olivier Dacour when I was young. So, I know it's a top club. Illan knows a lot about football. So, he quickly realized that it's not like going to a low table club in England. And then Victor was really good. Again, he came quickly in a few days when he was in Lorient to explain the club, to explain how it works, what they expect about Illan. We spoke with the goalkeeping coach, Marcos, which is a very well-recognized goalkeeping coach. And we had a lot of relationship with in UK. And everybody told us that Marcos has really specific training session for goalkeeper and is making all goalkeepers improve. So, it was a historic club in championship. So perhaps it could have been easier to get some playing time because there's a lot of games in championship. It was a top goalkeeping coach. And of course, there is Marcelo Bielsa. So the mix was perfect. So we didn't think too long before agreeing on the negotiation. There went very quickly as well. So it was a good choice. And now I think everybody is happy about that.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, obviously Leeds' head coach is Marcelo Bielsa, and he's someone who seemingly plays a vital role when Leeds recruit all of their players. However, at the start of this season, a number of the new recruits, such as Robin Koch and Rodrigo and Diego Llorente, spoke publicly about Marcelo personally ringing him and showing them PowerPoints about how he planned to use the player this season. And was that ever similar to when Illan first joined the club? Was there any interaction between yourself and Illan and Marcelo himself?
No, we didn't talk to Marcelo Bielsa. Illan is goalkeeper. Goalkeeper, it's really specific. I mean, for a goalkeeper, the most important is the relationship with the goalkeeping coach, for sure. Then to play in a team coached by Marcelo Bielsa, it's a very, very good experience. But before signing, the most important was to know the plan with Victor Horta and to speak with the goalkeeping coach because it's goalkeeper are not like usual football players. It's a different race of football players. So for them, the goalkeeping coach is very important. But that Marcelo Bielsa was in the club was, of course, a big advantage. I used to have a player in Marseille when Marcelo Bielsa was the coach. So I know that for players, it's a tremendous experience to play with to do a season with Marcelo Bielsa. I mean, most of the players of the Marseille squad at the time, I think they will have their best years, their best season was with Marcelo Bielsa. So I mean, it's something that you won't forget in a career to play with Marcelo Bielsa. I think players will remember it all their lives. So when you can have this opportunity, you take it. It's not easy for a goalkeeper because there is a lot of goal opportunities because it's very open play. But at the same time, it's made for Illan because Illan has always been very good with his feet. And I don't think there is a goalkeeper touching more balls and doing more paces in Europe than in Leeds. So it was the perfect mix.
And like Sam said, when Illan joined Leeds in 2019, it was initially on loan. However, Lorient reported that there was an option to make it a permanent move at the end of the season. Was there a specific reason to why it was a loan deal at first, as opposed to a straight permanent transfer?
Yes, but it was not a huge transfer for UK standard, because in Premier League there is a lot of money, but it was quite a big transfer still for a young player. So Leeds was in Championship. Of course, the aim was to get in Premier League immediately. I mean, if Leeds wouldn't have get in Premier League, of course, you don't have the same budget, so you cannot realize the same transfer. So it was quite obvious to put an option if Leeds get in Premier League the option is exercised. If not, we would have tried to stay in Leeds, and Leeds would have tried to finalize the deal with Lorient, but they couldn't promise what will be the financial situation if they stay in championship. So it was totally and even for us it was good because if Illan had a hard time to adapt to England, to UK, so he could have come back to France after 1 year. So it was good for all the parties to do like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when Illan first joined the club, he was Leeds' number 2 goalkeeper behind Kiko Casilla. Obviously, someone who had joined from Real Madrid the previous year. But before Illan joined, did he realise that he was going to be second choice goalkeeper at Leeds initially? And if so, how much game time did he expect to have that championship season?
It was clear that he will be number 2 behind Kiko Casilla, but he was told he will be the goalkeeper for the future. And he was told there was a lot of game in championship. Is it true? It's true. I don't think there is a championship in Europe with more games. So even for a goalkeeper, there should be some playing times. And there was the cup, so he could show himself. It was better for him to be number 2 in Leeds than number 2 in Lorient, because there is more games in Leeds. It's a better club. And for the first year, it was the objective was to adapt to the Premier League, not to the Championship. So 1 year to adapt to the Championship, it's not a lot. Most of French players going to UK, they need a lot of time to adapt. The play is different, the life is different, everything is different. So to play the first months with the under 23, it was what he wanted and what he needed. So after, of course, the cup game, I know first cup game, he was not put on the squad. He was asking some question, like every player who are not playing, but he was never, he knew he had to wait and it will come. Then Kiko was never injured. In fact, he's never injured, Kiko. He's a really professional. But there was that sad story. Illan would have preferred to play his first game, not because of Kiko's suspension, because it was not deserved at all. I mean, he knows Kiko personally, and there is not a single, there's a little bit of racism in him. There is nothing like that. So, of course, it was not, he would have preferred to play, not because of that. But anyway, it's football. When there is opportunities, you have to take it. And I think he stepped in for Kiko in quite a good way. And even his first game was against Arsenal before the suspension in Cup. And it was a good game as well. So, no, he knew when he signed that he would not be the number 1. But he was not the number 1 either in Lorient. And there was so much game in Championship. So for us, it was no problem.
On the topic of that Arsenal game, when did you know that Illan would be starting that match? And how did you feel about Illan, who was still 19 years old at the time, making his debut away at the Emirates?
I don't remember exactly how much time before the game Illan knew it, but then no, we didn't have any apprehension, any fears about that, because we know Illan, he's a little bit like always calm. There is no pressure on him. He's always up in life, on the football field. He's always the pressure. He doesn't feel the pressure. So we knew that mentally he would be here without problem. Then to start at Arsenal, it's a good opportunity. Anyway, it's in France, Arsenal, it represents something because it used to be Arsène Wenger club. A lot of French players went there. So no, it was he had no pressure, so that's the bottom line. So for that, we didn't have. It was a nice opportunity, and he did a good game. Immediately, I think people could see how he plays with his feet, how accurate he was. So no, it was good.
Yeah, and although Leeds lost that game, I went to the Emirates that game, and it's like Jack did, and I thought he had a really, really good debut for Leeds. Like you said, his distribution with his feet and making saves, especially considering his age, and his first game at England in the Premier League, well, at a Premier League club away at Arsenal was just, I thought it was a really good performance. But what did you make of his performance? Because you must have felt like a proud father watching him play that game, making his debut at Arsenal, which was a prestigious club for especially the French players, like you said.
No, it was, I didn't understand all the question, but how he felt, it's what I say before. He had no pressure. It was good opportunities to play Arsenal. Then his distribution, we were not surprised because it's why I think Leeds went after him. Because in the Marcelo Bielsa style of play, you need a goalkeeper who is very good at distribution. And Illan, you have to realize he's quite a specific goalkeeper for me. He's different than most of the goalkeeper. I mean, when he was playing in the youth team in Lorient, it was quite, I would even say shocking to see him play, because I remember a tournament and most of the time he was playing like a field player, basically like a central defender. He was often outside of his box. And when there was a long ball or a go-through ball, he was the first on it, outside of his box. So people around the pitch were saying, this guy is totally crazy. But at the end of the day, when you could have, like, in the game, 10, one-on-one between the striker and the goalkeeper, there was only one, because he was before the ball arrived to the striker. He was here, 20 meters in front of his goal, and blocking the pass and taking the ball with his feet. So it was quite surprising to see him play. Of course, now when he started to play in professional, could less do that, because for me it was a new style of playing for goalkeepers. I mean, it was it was awesome. I think perhaps in a few years, some goalkeepers will play like that. I think right now coaches and the supporters are not ready for that, because even if it can be really effective, if you miss an opportunity, then the goal will be on TV for 2 weeks. So it's quite a risky style of play. But I mean, to do that with the youth team, he developed his distribution, because here, when you do that, you cannot miss a dribble on the player or something like that. And he developed his reading of the play, because he had to feel from where the ball was coming and so on, how to position himself. So it was really good for his progress. And I think now, well, of course, people are seeing some goals he took this year, like against Arsenal, but I mean, it's part of his play. It's part of Marcelo Bielsa style of play. But if you look at the number of distribution against pressure he did this season, it's quite. I think could be in the same class as Neuer and a lot of goalkeeper with his distribution, with his feet. Oh, he has a lot of progress to do, of course, on his line, on a lot of things. But I mean, he has something special, and I think that Leeds noticed it. It was perfect for Marcelo Bielsa.
Despite that solid debut in the FA Cup, like we were saying, against Arsenal, Illan returned to the bench for that following championship match. But at the start of February, like we touched on earlier, Xavier was handed that 8-game suspension for an incident which occurred at the start of the season, which we won't go into. But it meant that Meslier would become Leeds' first choice goalkeeper for the final stretch of that campaign. And although it wasn't an ideal situation for the club, like you said earlier, it was a perfect situation for Illan because he started playing regularly in the championship. But how did he feel playing under them circumstances? Because all of a sudden he was the goalkeeper for the under 23s, and then he was dropped into the first team more or less straight away into a Leeds team who were at a vital stage of the season and pushing for promotion.
He was prepared for it, because he was training all the day with Kiko, with Marcos. He already played the game against Arsenal, and then we have to come back to what we said earlier. I think he's somebody who doesn't feel the pressure in his everyday life when he's on the pitch. He's always calm. I mean, he hasn't done a lot of interviews since he's in Leeds, but when you see him speak, you understand how he is. He's someone who is really always cool, calm. It's like Iceman, basically. There's always no pressure on him. So no, to play in the last year, of course, it was a decisive time for Leeds. It was the end of the season. They were playing to get promoted. So yeah, but no pressure. It was really took it very like an opportunity to size, and he says it.
And in them final 10 games of the season, it was obviously the first time he'd played in England in the Championship. He helped Leeds reach the Premier League for the first time in 16 years. And you showed us some photos just before you joined about him and you partying with the Championship trophy at the end of the season. How was that night and that celebration for you all?
It was for him. It was his first trophy, so he was quite happy about it. After, we didn't party all night long because we had a lot of talks and a lot of meeting at the time. So it was the picture you saw was the party with all the player who was organized some day after the end of the season, organized by the club. So it was not everybody dancing on the table. It was still. I think they party a lot just after the promotion. I was not here, but I saw all the videos on in the stadium when they were in the stadium and when they knew it. Here, I think it was quite a huge parties. But I mean, it's the secrets of the player what they did this night. I don't know. I will never know.
And obviously, at the time, Illan hadn't been at Leeds for long and had never played in England before that season. However, at the end of the year, you could tell that, in a way, Illan had fallen in love with Leeds and the city in general and was really enjoying his time at the club. And even though he was only on loan and had only been in England a few months, could you sense that too?
Yes, for sure it was, he didn't really knew England before, so I think it's good because London is a magnificent city, but Leeds, I used to study in Leicester, so cities like Leicester, Leeds, it's less, perhaps for a young player, it's better than to go to London right away. Used to have a player in Watford, was close to London, it was lot of traffic, it's more, to start football in UK in Leeds, I think it's perfect. The training center is perfect. The city is, we didn't knew it was such a big cities because it was it's one of the main cities of UK, but we really didn't knew that. So no, it's still no, but it's a good cities. It's for me, it's quite like German cities. It's functional. It's less modern than in France. You have everything you need. Commercial center in city center. It's and you feel football for French players to go to England. It's totally different. The fandom, how are the fans is totally different than in France. So when you see in the commercial center, in the city center, the Marcelo Bielsa line, it's something you will never see in France. And when you go to the shop near Elland Road, with all the statues of a former player in front, with a scarf on it, flowers, it's feel that you're really somewhere where football is the heart of football is beating. So it's a tremendous experience to play in Premier League, and Illan is of course likes very much Leeds. So he was living in Leeds in the beginning, in a flat in Leeds. Now he moved closer to the training ground. So of course it's less tiring that way, but of course he love Leeds, and we all love to come in Leeds, and it's a really special place.
Yeah, it definitely is. And at the end of that 1920 season, after Illan had played so well at the back end of the season for Leeds, his loan deal at the club was finished. Was there ever a chance that he could have returned to France or maybe even another team, or was it always going to be that he would return to Leeds on a permanent deal?
No, there was no question about it. It was sure he wanted to stay. The club wanted him to stay. And anyway, it's a loan. Loan, there is an option. So if Leeds exercise the option, Lorient cannot talk with other clubs. So there was not a single question. Mm-hmm. And we didn't put him on the market. We didn't call other clubs because it was sure. Leeds told us in April that okay, we're happy about him. We will exercise the option. Well, we were still waiting to be sure that Leeds is promoted to be sure, but quickly became obvious they will go in the Premier League. So there was no question.
And I don't want to go too much into the fee that Leeds paid for Illan because obviously that was undisclosed. However, it was reported to be at £5.5 million. And was there a reason as to why that fee was so low? Because it seemed that at the time, Leeds got a very good deal for a very good young player. And were Lorient happy with the amount that they got?
I think the president knew at the time when he knew that he would have preferred the president of Lorient that Illan stayed, and because he knew he was a young goalkeeper with a lot of potential, and then he could make much more money out of him than what Leeds paid. So, but at the same time, the president of Lorient knew that he did 1 year and 1 season as a starter. Before the first game of the championship, he was put on the bench, and they knew that he needs to play. So, and after, if he would have stayed in Lorient, the coach is still here, Christophe Pellissier. Perhaps Illan will have not played for 2 years or 3 years. In this case, then you don't have even the money they got from Leeds. Then the transfer, I cannot disclose the number because of course it's Leeds and we can do that. So, but it was a good amount because there was a lot of bonuses, easy reachable bonuses. So it would have been much more than that. So no, so still it was good money for Lorient, which was in second division at the time. So it was a good deal for everybody. But of course, the president of Lorient knew that if he had keep Illan playing for 1 or 2 more years, he could have made a big transfer. But that's the way it is. He respected what his coach said, and it's not the president who will say to the coach, make this player play. So that was it.
And of course, Illan did make the move permanent at the start of this season, and he signed a 3-year contract at Leeds. And although he played really well at the end of that championship winning season, Kiko Casillas' ban had finished for the start of the Premier League campaign. Because of that, did you ever feel that Casillas might have regained his starting position for Leeds in the Premier League? And was that anything that was ever discussed when Illan made his loan move permanent? Because like you said, it's very key for you and obviously Illan himself to play matches, especially at the highest level.
Well, they were happy of what Illan did in the last game of the championship season. So it was quite clear he will be starting in the Premier League. But it's football. They say clearly to us, if he's doing not a good training camp before the start of the season, he will be back at number 2. I mean, there is no guarantees of playing time in football, and we totally accept that. Illan accept that, and it's normality. I mean, they were not saying, okay, you signed the permanent deal. Now you are the number 1 goalkeeper for life. It's not like that. So I was saying, yes, he should start the season if he's not doing, he's doing a good preseason, but it was up to him to keep up his playing level. So there was no guarantees at all.
And as we all know, Illan has kept his starting spot for Leeds, and he's currently the youngest goalkeeper in the Premier League. How do you think he's started his life in the Premier League? Because he's already picked up 3 Man of the Match awards and kept 7 clean sheets in his first 24 league matches this season.
Mm-hmm. I think he's doing tremendous. All the team is doing tremendous this year. I think Leeds is mid-table right now, but you are talking about the club who is promoted. So I think they are doing a great season with a very a type of play who is entertaining for everybody. So I think it's a very good season from Leeds and from Illan as well. Of course, there is some games, Arsenal, in the last game, against, who was the last game? Wolverhampton. He didn't have luck, but he did a very good game otherwise. So, no, of course, there was some errors by, Illan because he's a young goalkeeper and he has a risky style of play, but it's not only his style of play, it's, what the clubs want, how the club is playing. So, no, I think, it's really demanding to play like that, to play, his distribution all the time under pressure, short passes all the time. No, I think he has done very good. And, I don't know, he will tell me, but I think the fans, agrees that, he's not perfect. He has to improve. He's very young. He will make a lot of progress, but right now, at his age, to do that in the Premier League, in the club like Leeds, he can only be happy of what he's doing. I think he's never happy like all players. He always want to improve, and he's deceived when he missed a game, but still, no, I think he's doing a very great season.
Yeah, of course. Like you mentioned, he had the incident against Wolves the other game and the couple of mistakes against Arsenal, but despite them, I think personally he's had an excellent start to the Premier League. And did you know that if Illan keeps one more clean sheet before his 21st birthday, which is at the start of next month, he becomes the first ever goalkeeper under the age of 21 to keep 8 clean sheets in a single Premier League season, which will break Joe Hart's record when he was at Manchester City.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I saw that on Leeds United live. So yes, but it's another record, but that's always good, or it's always how you call it? It's always good for the player to feel that he has beaten a new record. So for sure, Illan is one of the most. Is I think even the youngest, because Donnarumma is 1 year older. So I think he's the youngest starting goalkeeper in the Big 5 league in Europe. So that's quite an achievement. So for him to break those kind of records, it's not a real surprise. So, but it's not done. He still has to do one clean sheet. I hope it will be tonight. Then, if it's not after, there is still one game, I think, in but, well, I hope it will be tonight. After 2 defeats in a row, it's time to gain some points again.
Fingers crossed. And at just 20 years old, Illan is still extremely young for a Premier League goalkeeper. And like you said, the youngest in the top 5 leagues. And his first season and a half at Leeds has already improved drastically, in my opinion. But in your opinion, how great do you think Illan's potential is? And how good of a goalkeeper do you think he can become? Because he's already the most valuable goalkeeper under the age of 21, according to the player valuation website Transfer Market, who value him at £10 million. Double what Leeds reportedly paid for him just over 6 months ago, which seems like fantastic business.
Yes, I think Leeds is not about business. There is club like Monaco, Lille who want to buy players and sell them at bigger value just after. I don't think it's the plan of Leeds. I think Leeds wants to just to build a competitive team and to reach, like the president said some weeks ago, I think, to reach the Champions League quickly. I hope there is everything, all the potential here to do it. Then how good can Illan becomes? I think it's the time will tell us his progress. He has to work, and we'll see what happens. But of course, it's we have big expectation. I think us personally, and people to who we are talking, Illan is not projecting himself. He's in these games. But I think it's when you see goalkeepers in France, you have Hugo Lloris, of course, with the captain, who is untouchable. The second spot in the France national team is Steve Mandanda, who is getting old, but will stay in the group because Deschamps likes a player who are important in the group. So it will not change in the years to come. But after, for the future goalkeeper, the third one in France right now is Mike Maignan, who is doing good in Lille, who is a young goalkeeper as well. So yes, in France for the future right now there is Illan, Maignan. There is Alban Lafont, who is starting with the under-21, so it will be a competition between them. But I think if he's playing good in the years to come, could well be in the national team quickly. And then who knows what can happen. We can predict, in football. Well, you just have to work hard and to start games. So that's all. Then we'll see what happens. But who have played so much game at so young, it's not a guarantee of success. It can be a good indication.
As always, in the second section of the show, we put forward 4 questions to our guests which have been submitted by some of our LUFC Fanzone Instagram followers. To have a chance of featuring, simply head over to our LUFC Fanzone Instagram page and look out for our guest announcement, where the best 4 questions in the comments section of the post will feature in this section of the show.
This week's first question comes from Mark, who asks, how difficult did Illan feel it was moving to England at such a young age, especially when there wasn't and still isn't any other French players at Leeds? And when he initially joined on loan, was he unable to speak English, which might have made the switch even harder?
He's a young player, so when you are young, your brain is working well, like all of yours. So you learn quickly. He was not speaking perfect English, but he understood quite everything. And after a few weeks, he was not shy anymore to speak English. So I didn't really hear him speak English when he's with us. He preferred that we speak, but I know that now there is no problem. And when he went first in Leeds you have a physical coach, a fitness coach that is French. So he helped him a lot. I think that Patrick Bamford is speaking some French as well. And I don't remember. I think there was other players too speaking a little bit of French. So I mean, it was it was okay for the adaptation. Everybody was really helpful in the team. And I mean, Leeds, it's a well organized team. You have people taking care of the player, and you have a guy taking care of the players that is very effective. That did that for a lot of years in several clubs with some French players. So no, it was all perfect. There is a French restaurant in Leeds, so no, it was quite easy for him to adapt.
This week's second question comes from Harry, who asks, do you and Illan see Leeds as a long-term project and a club which Illan can stay at and progress at for a number of years? Or do you think it's realistic that he can move on to a bigger and more prestigious club? For example, a team who competes regularly in the Champions League, which is something Leeds can't offer at this moment in time.
When you are so young and already starting as the youngest goalkeeper in Europe, for sure there is big club that have interest, that are following him. But right now he's in Leeds, and I mean, it's what we thought before. He's playing, he's starting. So it's the bottom line in a historic club. He likes the club, he loves the club. And yeah, perhaps in 1 season, in 2 seasons, you have club like Real Madrid that will knock on the door. Who knows? But in 2 or 3 seasons, where Leeds will be, I don't know. I think perhaps if you keep that sport director, that coach, if the players keep improving year after year like they are doing, I think the president is right. They could right be in the Champions League quickly. And if Leeds is in the Champions League, trying to win a title with Leeds, I think it's more beautiful than winning something with Juventus, Real Madrid, or Bayern. So, I mean, right now he's playing, so no, it will be a bad idea to go to a top club to compete for number 1 and be number 2 for 2 or 3 years and not play. It would be a bad idea right now, and in the future, as we said, with Bielsa, with Victor Horta, and and if Bamford, Ayling, Dallas, Cooper keeps on improving game after game, who knows where the club can go. And to play top football, to play the title or Champions League in Leeds, I imagine, it didn't happen since a lot of years. If Champions League or the title competition for title is back in Leeds, it will be exceptional, tremendous. So to live things like that, I mean, football is about emotion too, not only saying, okay, I played for Juventus, for Real Madrid, for Bayern. It's about achieving something. And I think in Leeds, if everything stays in place with the president, with the sport director, with the coach, I think there is the potential to do tremendous thing. I think Illan think it's right now there is no way to think about leaving.
Next up is Max, who asks, how much of an impact do you think Marcelo Bielsa has had on Illan's development?
I think Marcelo Bielsa chose his staff, and Marcos is a top goalkeeping coach. Marcelo Bielsa's style of play, we talk about it a lot of time already, so it's quite demanding, and it's perfect for Illan. I told you what he was doing in his youth here in the youth clubs of youth team of Fleury. So I think it's a perfect match between Bielsa and Illan, and then of course he let him progress. Perhaps some coach after one error they could sweep keeper, things like that. But Bielsa he knows how it is. That is asking Illan to play a very risky football, and that Illan is delivering very well, and so he has the confidence of the coach. And I think it's everything is in place for him to progress, and I think the club is happy about it.
And this week's final question comes from James, who asks, this season, Illan has made so many important and match-winning saves, and like we said earlier, he's already kept 7 clean sheets. However, which save from him this season has been your personal favourite?
Oh, I have to know because there have been a lot. So I saw the game. I'm writing what but it will be too long I cannot say exactly because for me there was a lot, so I don't have one specifically in mind. But as far as the team as a whole is concerned, I remember the game at Aston Villa when they won at Aston Villa. I don't remember, it was November, I think. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
For me, this game was a typical Bielsa game. It was, a piece of art. It was a beautiful game. It was everything was like it's what you want to see in football, and I think it's the chances players of Leeds have to play with Bielsa is to take part in those kind of games. Of course, they are not winning every game. It's hard. It's a very open and risky style of play, but sometimes you have masterpieces like this game against Aston Villa. And for me, it has no price. And to be part of that team is quite good memories for the future, for sure. But to say specific say from Illan, I don't know. There was so much.
Too many to pick from, isn't there? Too many.
Too
many saves to pick from. No,
yes.
too many saves. He's made so many good saves. Them ones at Sheffield United, once a couple at Chelsea. Even though we
Arsenal
lose some
as
of the
well.
games, they can. Even though it's every game, he seems to pull out some amazing saves.
Yeah. I will have a hard time choosing specifically one, but as you say, against Sheffield, against City, against Wolverhampton in the first game, there was one good save. Against Aston Villa, it did two very good intervention. Oh, there is a lot. We will have to watch again to do the top 5. We'll do it by themselves.
Like you said, there's too many to choose from. And that ends today's episode. Thank you to everyone for sending their questions, and thank you so much for your time, Xavier. It's been great having you on the show.
Thank you very much, and I hope all the best for Leeds this season. And I think enjoy every minute of football of Bielsa for Leeds supporter. And I hope the club will go very far. And that starting tonight, there will be points coming in again. So thanks to everybody, and I hope to see you soon, to be back in Leeds soon, because right now with the pandemic it's hard to travel, but I hope I will be able to see a game in Elland Road with the supporter quite soon.
We'll be back next week with another guest. Stay tuned for the post over on our LFC Fan Zone Instagram later in the week. Thanks for listening.